UK Nationals is finally here, so let's lock in.
Subscribe.
I am on a mission to bring Red Dragon Archfiend to a more competitive level and help get the deck some of its first ever tier 2 and 3 event tops in the name of the king. In this series we've been creating and exploring all kinds of different builds to figure out the most competitive option to take to UK Nationals, while also educating the player base on how to play the deck better with the new support. We're already starting to see results. Exordio took some notes, as did Zedlock. Team Sam also did his homework and put a decent list together. The people are learning and it's working. It's now time to lock in and convert all of this theory into practice. It's also just been a hot minute since the last video, so we have a lot to get into. Obviously, at the time you're seeing this, UK Nationals just happened last weekend, so this video is being split into two parts. This part will include the Nationals plan, as well as all the prep, theory, and thoughts leading up to the event, and then the next part will be the actual results. Part 2 will be up in a couple of days, so you don't have to worry about waiting too long, but first things first, we needed to decide on what build we were going to actually take to Nationals, and I've also just had a lot of people ask me what build I think is the best, so let's do a little tier list. Hey! You're wearing a really nice t-shirt. I bet that felt nice, didn't it? Well, that could happen to you more often thanks to today's sponsor, Game UK. If you've not been buying your booster boxes from Game UK, you've been missing out on so many cool different set-exclusive official t-shirts. We've talked about it so many times in the past. These t-shirts come free with your booster box purchase, and there's been so many bangers. Chaos Origins is of course just around the corner, and this set also comes with a really sick t-shirt. The Magician of Black Chaos is just an actual classic, man. He looks so dope. These shirts are limited to just 300 copies, and with Chaos Origins being such a crazy core set, I would recommend getting your pre-order in as soon as you can. The t-shirt comes in size UK large, and Game does ship to most places around the world, so you don't have to worry about missing out if you're not from the UK. You're just gonna have to pay that extra shipping fee, which is honestly your fault for not staying in the UK. I'll leave a link to Game's Chaos Origins page in the description down below so you can go and get your pre-order in, and hopefully your box comes blessed with not only the t-shirt, but a Starlight full art as well. Thanks again to Game UK for sponsoring this video. Right, here we have the Red Dragon Archfiend tier list. We're going to be ranking all of the different builds for Red Dragon Archfiend. There's going to be a couple of variants on here that we haven't explored in the series. And then there's also going to be a couple of builds not on the tier list that we also haven't explored. But like Fiendsmith Red Dragon Archfiend is just, it's not worth considering. So starting off here, we have Red Dragon Archfiend Centurion. This build is very good. There's a lot of synergy between the two engines. You can play back and forth between them. The Centurion engine fixes a lot of the Red Dragon Archfiend pure issues. For example, you have plays into Perulia, Nibiru, Fuelos, Droll. It's a really, really good deck going first. The issue is going second, right? You can't play Impulse, so that's a con. And you have a lot of bad draws going second, like the Centurion normal summons, Wake Up Centurion, and you can't exactly side those out either. There's maybe a world where you can try to side out the entire Centurion engine going second, but then you probably don't have enough starters in the deck. Yeah, I think the going second issue unfortunately drags this deck down. I would play it at a regional though. It's still really, really good. Next up, we have pure Red Dragon Archfiend. Obviously going to be worse than Red Dragon Archfiend Centurion because you have all of those issues, not only going first, but going second as well. I do think you should be playing Fiend Peace Golem in pure Red Dragon Archfiend, so that kind of mitigates the Nibiru problem. It gives you 3 non-tuner pushes. Either way, I think this build of Red Dragon Archfiend just isn't as good as it could be, so this is probably just a locals deck. I would play this at locals. You can win locals with this. A regional, you would have to get really, really lucky. All right, next up, RDA Mitsu. Okay, a lot of people got excited about this build after I uploaded the video. If you open a solid hand, you know, both engines, no bricks, it's really, really strong. You can play all of the insane non-engine in this build. It kind of fixes the going second issue with Red Dragon Archfiend. It gives you some very powerful plays. So if you get really lucky, this deck can be insane, actually. It does have its issues, though. You have to play bricks from both engines, and because you're kind of minimizing both engines, those bricks are lower quality than they could be. For example, if you open Mitsurugi Ritual in Pure Mitsu, you're more likely to be able to use that to extend, whereas if you open it in RDA Mitsu, it's probably just a dead card, you know? There's really not enough synergy between the two engines to kind of outplay your opponent with certain card combinations, and throughout the course of a longer tournament, your hand quality is just not going to be good enough, man. So definitely a locals deck, Probably better than pure RDA, although you can get unlucky with it. If you open only Mitsu engine and you whiff off a zombie vampire though, like you're cooked, man. Alright, next up is RDA Magistus. So we actually haven't looked at this build on the channel yet, and there is honestly a reason for that. This build is totally pointless. Spenta as a starter, like, isn't terrible. You're able to set up the Zorua fusion monster negate while summoning Crimson King. The issue is that that's all it's doing. Like, you're adding 2 bad draws to the deck with Zorua and the Crowley for the sake of, like, extra consistency. It's just, the deck doesn't need consistency. We have Resonator Call, we have Stone Sweeper, we have, you know, all the searches in the world. We don't need consistency. We need a sub-engine that kind of fixes the issues of the deck, and the Spenta engine just, it doesn't do that. Hypernova Red Dragon Archfiend. Okay, so this is basically just pure, except with Hypernova, right? If you're playing Hypernova, I assume your goal is to try and summon the Hypernova. Therefore, you're playing pure Red Dragon Archfiend, but with some extra unnecessary bricks. If you're actually trying to get to Hypernova, you have to go through, you know, the fragile lands with Crimson Resonator and things like that. So by all measurements, the Hypernova build is just worse than pure RDA. Unless you go uninterrupted, your end board is just an FTK. It's fun. Hypernova is cool. You're aura farming. I would play it at locals. I wouldn't expect to win, but it could be a potential option for Genesis, because a lot of our end board pieces are pointed, but Hypernova is not. So if you focus on summoning Hypernova, you get to play a lot better non-engine in Genesis. Even then though, Kaijus are very popular, DD Crow is very popular if you're going through Crimson lines, and then on top of that you have all of the same issues as pure RDA. So yeah, Genesis or locals, Hypernova just, I wish it was good, but it's not. Alright, next up we have Red Dragon Albaz, those luscious locks, that beautiful long white hair. The plays you can make with the Albaz engine, of course, are really, really strong. You're adding no bricks to the deck. You play better into all of the issues that Red Dragon Archfiend has. You still get to play Impulse, of course you can play Spark as well. You get all of the crazy non-engine. The issue with Walbaz is that you only have 3 Walbaz, right? If you don't see Walbaz, then you're basically just playing pure Red Dragon Archfiend and you have all of the same issues. This is definitely one of the better ways to play Red Dragon Archfiend. You still have Impulse in the deck, your siding is flexible, you don't have to keep in bad cards like Wake Up Centurion. I do think if you build it correctly, this is the best way to play Red Dragon Archfiend with the focus on Red Dragon Archfiend. Yeah, this deck is very good. I would take it to a regional comfortably, and I think this would be one of the only builds that could possibly get results. It does suck going second into Cool Tune, that's the only issue, so unfortunately, it's not like worth taking to a big event right now. But as soon as Cool Tune phases out and then we get the overframes, this definitely becomes a very, very strong pick. So yeah, for now, just a regional deck. Next up, we have my baby, Red Dragon Archfiend Elfnote. Of course, it is more of an Elfnote deck than a Red Dragon Archfiend deck, right? You're trying to bridge into your Red Dragon Archfiend plays. In the video we did for this build, where I was just kind of like initially labbing everything out, I hadn't looked at the Power Patron package or anything like that. I can say that after weeks of testing and optimizing past that video, this deck has evolved so much and it's very, very strong. There's so much synergy. Crimson Blade Dragon searching for Vidolium is just an insane part of the gameplay that allows you to bridge between both engines. In the current format, a lot of people are playing board breakers. You know, you got Branded, Sky Strikers, Mitsu, etc. all playing the Super Poly, Droplet Crown. This deck is able to Handrip your opponent for 3. While setting up 2 or 3 negates, plus your 3-4 hand traps in hand potentially. You just FTK going first, and that's really, really strong this format. You just kind of have to build it to beat Cool Tune. Obviously, having a more flexible extra deck and no kind of like level locks allows you to play better into the Cool Tune board, but the deck does still struggle going second, so you kind of have to build around that and potentially win a few die rolls, get lucky. This is just absolutely the build I'm going to be taking to Nationals because it's the build that's going to give me the most potential at topping an event. And it's already seeing results, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Finally, we have Red Dragon Archfiend Rocket. Yeah, this deck is just pointless. Quick Launch is a very, very cool card, but you have to add bad cards to the deck to make the package work, and it doesn't do anything. It's just extra ways to get to Crimson King, and we don't need that, right? Well, like I said, it's the same problem as Magistus. It's just extra consistency. We don't need extra consistency. We don't need extra bad draws in the deck. Maybe Rocket Barrage, the overframe, is able to change that, but honestly, I kind of doubt it. For now, it's just pointless. But yeah, overall, that's the tier list. Red Dragon Archfiend Elfnote, while not being as much of a Red Dragon Archfiend build as the rest of these, it's just the best deck here. That was meant to be quick, man. What the hell, 15 minutes? Jesus Christ. Okay, we gotta cut that down. Post Chaos Origins, there's even more builds to consider. Of course, you get Chaos Ritual RDA, and then you can actually mix RDA with the Chess archetype, because Power Vice is just full Chess Lock plus RDA combo. But none of that is relevant for Nationals. just like any Tier 3 event, Nationals is held over an entire weekend with the main event spanning across 2 days. Thankfully, there's a lot more Yu-Gi-Oh! Events going on at the same time as the main event, so even if everything goes wrong in the first couple of rounds and your main event is a complete disaster, you still have lots of other things to do. So for this event, not only do we have Plan A, but we also have a strong Plan B and Plan C as well. Plan A is, of course, the main event. We're going to be taking Elfnote RDA through the gauntlet and attempting to top with the deck. The official top cut after Swiss is unfortunately only top 8 these days, but I'll be happy with anything that awards additional prizing, which I think ends up being top 128. It doesn't sound very hard, but if there's like 1500 players, that's still higher than top 10%, you know? So it's still pretty good. Plan B, if we do poorly in the main event, is Attack of the Giant card on Sunday. This is a 128-man single elimination event with a giant Crimson King card as the first place reward, which is extremely fitting. This is the perfect event to play Centurion or Albaz Red Dragon Archfiend, so winning the Crimson King with a proper RDA deck would be iconic. Lastly, if we lose the first round or two of the giant card, we have Plan C. The oversized card Genesis Challenge, once again competing for an oversized Crimson King, which is the same as a giant card, but smaller, obviously. RDA is arguably a meta pick in Genesis, so we'd basically be farming this event for free. Either way, we have lots of potential Red Dragon Archfiend gaming ahead of us, and lots of good Yu-Gi-Oh! To fall back on, so I'm very excited. Now, when competing in any format, it's always good to look at the results of other tournaments to get an idea of what you'll come up against and what kind of non-engine lineup seems to be working. Currently, the top 10 decks at the moment are looking to be Cool Tune, Branded, Doom Z, Mitsu, Malice, Elfnote, Strikers, Fairy Tail, Radiant Typhoon, and Power Patron, with the majority of them running board breakers. This leads to a weird kind of triangle format where FTK decks start to exist, like Trains FTK and Amorphage Power Patron, so we need to keep things like that in mind when it comes to figuring out our non-engine lineup across the main and side deck. While we're on the topic of tournament results, it has been a minute since Blazing Dominion dropped, so you might be wondering how Red Dragon Archfiend is actually doing competitively. Well, other than the Genesis YCS win, there's still literally 0 tops for the deck across all Tier 2 and Tier 3 events. For whatever reason, the entirety of the UK has not had a single regional since Blazing Dominion dropped, so that's my excuse. But we have, however, seen some minor successes outside of the UK from those who actually put in the work. Bossman from the Red Dragon Archfiend Discord managed to get a top 16 finish with Albaz Red Dragon Archfiend at Houston Regionals with over 250 players, which is super impressive. He was able to play the whole event without running into a single Cool Tune matchup, so that's really just the dream come true, man. Sam Knight also got a top 16 finish at the Toronto Regional, finishing ahead of people like Jesse Cotton and Steven Santoli, and both of those regionals were roughly around 250 players. Finally, Gabo Ramos also got a top 16 finish at Venezuelan Nationals with a Red Dragon Archfiend Elfnote list. I'm not actually sure how many players were in that event, but still a very impressive finish. So shout out to those guys, and of course shout outs to Stanley Huang as well for being the first ever YCS Genesis winner with Red Dragon Archfiend. I will top an event with Red Dragon Archfiend, so with Nationals being the only UK event, we simply just have to top Nationals, baby. Let's do it. Yo, real quick, did you know Elfnote Regina says poop in the top left-hand corner? Right there. Like and subscribe for poop. Alright, so we've established that we're going to be taking Elfnote Red Dragon Archfiend to Nationals. After playing countless games and really learning the deck and figuring out all of the new synergies with the Power Patron cards, like Crimson Blade, Search, and Vidolium, we didn't really go into that in the last episode. It actually comes up a ton, and there's so much more synergy than before. So I'll take you through some of those new combos and interactions the deck has now, and then we'll speak about the deck and the theory going into Nationals after that. So what's actually turned out to be a very important part of the deck is that Crimson Blade Dragon can search for Vidolium. Now this means Crimson Blade Dragon can get to Vidolium, which on its own can get you to either a Terminus or an Elfnote power patron, and then of course Terminus can get you to your Medius. This opens up a ton of different pathways with some of your card interactions, making something like Crimson Gaia or Darkness Resonator a full combo extender to like a negated Elfnote name, and it also allows your things like Soul Resonator and Bone Archfiend to basically just be full starters for the deck. Let's get into some examples. So here we have a hand of Elfnote Lucina, just a random discard, and Soul Resonator. We of course start with our special summon Lucina and activate the effect, and Lucina gets stopped, whether it be an Imperm, Ash, or whatever. We would then go on to normal summon Soul. Soul effect can grab the Boner, and we would then activate the Boner, pitching the Fuwa to special summon itself. We would then go Boner effect, target Lucina, send the Elfnote power patron to grave because it is a Fiend tuner, and change the level of Lucina before synchroing the Soul with the Boner into Crimson Blade Dragon effect. That's going to grab us our Vidolium, which in this situation, because we've gone through the Elfnote power patron, we can use the effect to reborn it, and that's going to extend us even further, bringing back the little peacock. And then Vidolium of course will activate, grabbing us a copy of the Terminus. We can then synchro the power patron with the Crimson Blades into the Crimson King, Chain Link 1, Chain Link 2, where we add Vision Resonator and Elfnote Regina. We would then special summon Vision and synchro with the Crimson King into Dispatter. Vision effect will get us to our Crimson Gaia. We'll then activate the effect of Regina, sending Lucina to grave to special summon herself, and Regina effect to summon from deck. Here we'll summon the Tinia just to get the Welcome Home in rotation. Tinia effect, we'll place the Welcome Home. We'll go Welcome Home, send the Tinia to special summon Fortuna. Fortuna effect will get us to our trap card, and then here we'll fire off the Terminus. We're going to send the Vidolium to grave to grab Medius to hand, and we can then activate the effect of Rhapsodia, pitching the Medius to summon back the power patron. This is also that we can synchro with the Regina to get her in hand for our opponent's turn. We have to make a 7 Dark Dragon synchro, so that would be Quibelt. Effect of Regina will come back to hand, and then we can activate the effect of Medius, shuffling back the Quibelt to special summon itself, and effect to summon another Peacock from the deck. We want to make a Red Dragon Archfiend so that we can then synchro with the Darkness Resonator into an Abyss, but if we synchro into the RDA here, we won't be able to special summon the Darkness. So here we're just going to activate Crimson Gaia and its effect, and go through the Darkness Resonator first. Darkness effect to special, reveal RDA, special summon. We can then go power patron effect to make itself level 4 and synchro into the boy himself, Red Dragon Archfiend. This gets him in rotation as well for the Crimson Gaia, so he can keep reborning with cards getting destroyed on the field. Then go Darkness effect, target itself, make itself level 1, and synchro with the RDA into our Abyss, either in the middle if you think Fortuna's going to be live immediately, or, you know, into another zone. Essentially giving us our full combo here. If you want to, you can summon back the Medius with the Dispatter so that you have a Dark to send off of the Rhapsodia. But either way, at this point, yeah, you should be fine. Similarly, this also turns Boner into full combo just by pitching a card from hand, but it also works with like a negated name. So let's say we special summon an Elfnote name, it gets negated. That's just our free fodder for the Bone Archfiend here. So we'd activate the effect of Bone, sending our Tinia in this case to special summon itself. We'll go effects, target himself, send Vision to grave to increase its level to 5. Vision will activate, where we can grab our Crimson Gaia. We'll then activate Crimson Gaia and its effect, grabbing back the Vision from grave. We'll special summon the Vision because Bone's level 5 and synchro into, of course, the Crimson Blade Dragon. Effect, we'll grab the Vidolium, and we can then scale the Vidolium and activate the second effect. We don't need to have a power patron to summon or anything. You can just activate Vidolium, popping itself, and then Vidolium effect will grab us the Terminus. At this point, we'll activate the Terminus, just sending the Vidolium to the graveyard because it's just a free send at that point. That will grab us the Medius, and we have not used our normal summon. So we would just normal summon Medius, Medius effect to summon out the power patron. We'll go effect to make itself level 4, and then synchro into the Crimson King. Chain Link 1, Chain Link 2. We'll loop back into our Darkness Resonator here, and then grab the Lucina because we did start with a Tinia and it got negated. Effect of Darkness, reveal RDA to special summon itself, effect for an additional normal. We can then synchro with the Crimson Blade into our Dispatter here. We'll then special Lucina and activate Lucina's effect, grabbing the Regina. Regina effect will send Lucina, special summon itself, and effect to summon from deck. Of course, summoning the Fortuna. We'll go Fortuna effect, placing the trap. And then at this point, we're not going to be able to synchro with the Regina to get it in hand. So our best bet here is just activating Rhapsodia, sending the Regina to summon back the power patron, to then synchro with the Crimson King into our Abyss. Of course, in these kind of situations where there's nothing banished for the Dispatter, Tinia will solve that. So we would go, for example, Rhapsodia effect, sending Fortuna here because we have nothing else in hand or whatever, summoning back the Tinia to negate a card on the field. then go Tina effect to swap zones with the Abyss to banish a card out of our opponent's hand, and then that turns Dispatcher into our live monster negate. So the Vidolium search on Crimson Blade allows us to extend into our basically full Red Dragon Archfiend to Elfnote combo with some of our Red Dragon Archfiend cards like Soul and Bone, but it also extends our full Elfnote combo with things like Gaia and Darkness Resonator. So let's look at that. Alright, so Darkness Resonator initially was kind of assumed to be a bit of a brick that didn't really extend anything, but actually it helps you go full combo, bro. Look at this. We start by special summoning Lucina. Lucina gets stopped for whatever reason. We then activate the effect of Darkness to special summon itself, effect for an additional normal, and then we go effect to make itself level 1 to then synchro with the Lucina into the Crimson Blade Dragon. Effect gets us to our Vidolium. We would then scale the Vidolium and activate its effect to blow itself up. Effect to search for the Terminus. We'll activate Terminus, sending Vidolium, grabbing our Medius from the deck. We haven't used our normal summon. In fact, we have an additional normal summon for Resonators as well. Here we'll normal summon Medius, activate its effect, and bring out the Peacock. Now this is where the world basically becomes our oyster. We can just go straight into the Crimson King like this. We can make a Crystal Wing and search with the Power Patron, or we can make a Crimson King with these two. Here we will level up the Peacock and synchro with the Medius into our Crimson King, Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, grabbing our Vision and our Tenia. Then at this point we're just chilling, right? We can special summon our Vision, synchro with the Crimson King into Bestial Dispatter. Vision effect, can add the Crimson Gaia. We'll activate Gaia and its effect to grab back the Vision, and then we can use our additional normal summon on the Vision and synchro with the Crimson Blade into our Abyss, right? And we're not locked or anything at this point. We're free to then just continue on with our Elfnote combo. Opening with the Gaia instead of the Darkness is a little worse, but you are essentially still getting to a full combo. So at this point, 4 of our 5 main deck RDA cards are actually good to see in conjunction with your Elfnote engine. Yeah, the deck's kind of crazy, man. I'm not gonna lie, kind of crazy. Now, I mentioned earlier that a lot of decks in the format are maining board breakers because board breakers are good into Cool Tune. And we don't make an unbreakable board for, especially against Branded. Branded is a really difficult matchup when you end on a Field of Dragons because Fallen of the White hitting the field is essentially just game on the spot, allowing them to contact fuse all of your boss monsters. So we had to come up with a bit of counterplay against Branded and, you know, board breaker decks in general, and the best way to do that was to hand loop our opponent for 3. The addition of our little Crimson King engine to the deck allows every single starter in the deck, you know, except Soul or Bone or whatever, to hand loop our opponent for 3. It's also just the quickest way to end games because they essentially see that they're getting FTK'd and then just scoop and go to game 3, allowing you to save time on the clock in a very long tournament, which is good because, you know, you can then go get food or a drink or whatever. So I'm also going to show you 2 of our hand loop combos, one starting with just an elf name, and then another starting with, you know, access to Medius through something like Terminus. Alright, so starting off with the Power Patron Terminus combo, this is just a 1-card combo. We activate the Terminus, sending the Power Patron to the graveyard, and searching for our Medius. We then normal summon Medius and activate the effect of Medius, searching for the Vidolium so that we don't int into Fuwalos. We can scale the Vidolium, and then activate its effect, popping itself to Reborn, our Power Patron to the middle zone. Effect to search, here we could add another Terminus, we could add a Ginaldo if you play it. Here I'm just going to add another Power Patron. We do want to add a monster here, so that we can pitch for an attribute. In this deck specifically, I kind of figured that Ginaldo was win more, but we'll talk about that later. Continuing with the combo, we're going to activate the effect of Peacock to level up to 4, and then synchro into our Crimson King. Chainlink 1 Power Patron, Chainlink 2 Crimson King. We're going to grab a Tenia and a Vision. We can special summon Tenia as summon number 4 and then activate her effect to place the Welcome Home. This combo does play into Nibiru just fine, and we'll then special summon the Vision and synchro with the Crimson King into our Bestial Dispatcher. Vision's going to activate in the graveyard, adding the Crimson Gaia. We'll activate the Crimson Gaia and its effect to search for the Darkness. We'll go effect of Darkness, revealing RDA to special summon itself, and then effect to gain an additional normal, effect to make itself level 1, and synchro with the Tenia. We've already gone through the Vidolium, so here we have to summon out the Strelitzia. Strelitzia effect to reborn the Power Patron, and then synchro into Omega. Of course, we go Omega effect, rip 1 card out of our opponent's hand, Dispatter, summon back the Omega, and then once again Omega effect, banishing a 2nd card out of their hand. The monster negate is now live on Dispatter. We go effect of Welcome Home, pitching a monster. Ideally, you want to summon Lucina here because we haven't gone through her, but worst case scenario, we just summon out the Regina here. Regina effect is going to summon out the Fortuna. Fortuna effect will place the Trap. Trap effect sends Fortuna to summon back the Power Patron, and we can then synchro with the Regina into our Dawn Dragster, where Regina will return to hand. So we have an Omni negate, a Spell Trap negate, and a Monster negate, and then in our opponent's draw phase, we would activate the effect of Regina, pitch and Welcome Home to special summon herself, and summon a Tinia from the deck, where we would then swap zones to rip the third card out of our opponent's hand. And that's essentially just an FTK. Our opponent has 3 cards. We essentially have 3 negates and then potentially hand traps and non-engine as well in hand, because that was just a 1-card combo. That was a Medius line. Now let's start with just a lone Elfnote monster. All right, finally, just a lone Elfnote name for the triple Handrip. We're going to special Lucina and activate her effect to grab the Power Patron. We'll normal summon the Power Patron and synchro into our Quibelt. Effect of Power Patron, we'll grab our Tinia, we'll special Tinia and activate her effect to place the Welcome Home. We'll go Welcome Home effect, pitch the Tinia to summon out the Regina to the middle column. Regina effect, we'll summon out the Fortuna. Fortuna effect, we'll place the Rhapsodia. Rhapsodia, pitch Fortuna to summon back the Power Patron, and then synchro with a Quibelt into our Crimson King. Crimson King effect is going to get us to our Vision. We can special the Vision and sync with the Crimson King into Bestial Dispatter. Vision effect is going to get our Crimson Gaia, which will just fire off and immediately search for the Darkness Resonator. Darkness effect to special, and then effect to make itself level 1, allowing us to synchro with the Regina. And we can go into Crimson Blade or Strelitzia here. Both of them get us to the additional level 1 body to go into Omega. Crimson Blade gets us follow-up and additional card advantage, whereas Strelitzia is just better to have in rotation for something like Rhapsodia. But yeah, we are going to summon the Strelitzia here. Regina will activate to come back to hand to use on our opponent's turn. We'll go effect Strelitzia to summon the Power Patron once again, and synchro into, of course, the Omega. Omega effect, rip 1, Dispatter, summon back, Omega effect, rip 2. The opponent's draw phase, we activate Regina, pitching Welcome Home to summon herself. Regina effect summons out the Tinia. We go Tinia effect to rip the third card. We have a Monster negate, an Omni negate, and then, 4 other cards in hand. And that is how we beat Branded and or Board Breakers. All right, let's end the video with a little cozy chat, a little pre-Nats Yap sesh and talk about where we're at with the deck right now. Things like engine ratios, non-engine, and whatnot. It's not going to be a deck profile. It's just going to be like a collection of thoughts. A bit of a ramble, if you will. So we've chosen our deck. We're playing Red Dragon Archfiend Elfnote for the main event. That's the easy part. The hard part is figuring out your exact engine ratios, deck count, and non-engine for that exact event, because the format develops so quickly, man. We've played so many games with this deck in this format, but with each passing event, deck representations and deck text change, so you have to keep up with that and adapt to what's going on to give yourself the best chances. So starting off with the Elfnote engine here, we are on 3 Lucina, 3 Tinia, 2 Welcome Home, 2 Power Patron, 1 Regina, 1 Fortuna, and 1 Trap. These are pretty self-explanatory. They are our main starters. I was initially playing 1 Welcome Home. You can easily play the 1 Welcome Home. I started playing the 2nd Welcome Home because it gives you more consistent pushes through things like Droll and Lockbird and Perulia. It allows you to actually activate Tinia on the field when you already have the Welcome Home in hand, which can, like bait an Imperm or a Veiler or something, even though that's incorrect because your opponent can just chain Regina and then you get Giga punished. But also because of Cool Tune Q. If you have to go through Tinia and your opponent banishes your 1 Welcome Home from your deck, Tinia becomes basically a vanilla body, which you don't really like. And that's kind of the same situation with the Elfnote Power Patron. I played over 100 matches with just 1, and it was fine, right? But if it gets banished in any way, your entire Synchro Grand game is basically just dead, so you kind of need the 2nd Power Patron. It's also just good to draw, It's like essentially a starter extender alongside any non-tuner body. And then, of course, we have our 3 combo pieces down here. You can use Regina as a hand trap, but I don't think you should in most situations, because if it gets interacted with in any way, and there are a lot of cards that interact with the Regina, you're essentially losing 2 pushes to 1 hand trap, and that's really, really bad. So yeah, she is mostly just a combo piece, and therefore we are only playing 1 copy. Moving on to the Power Patron stuff, 3 copies of Terminus, 2 copies of Medius, 2 copies of Theorealize, and 1 copy of Vidolium. These are all full combo starters. They all go through Medius, but Medius isn't like a super bottleneck either, because Terminus can extend from a negated Medius because you dump the Power Patron, add the Vidolium, and then revive the Power Patron, and then go full combo. Also, Vidolium isn't super important to your game plan, so you can get away with just playing 1. If this gets banished off queue, it's not the end of the world. The Graveyard effect of Terminus is really good. It allows you to force interaction and basically get 2 pushes out of 1 card. And the Graveyard effect of Theorealize allows you to turn one of your dragons into like a Divine Beast, so you can play around things like Super Poly and Albalinatus. I was initially playing the Ginaldo. It feels really, really good and nets you so much advantage when you actually successfully go through it. But if we're FTKing when we go first anyway, the draw 2 is essentially not needed and is basically just win more. And then there were too many games where I would see this in my opening hand, going second game 1 with no Elfnote names, and this would basically just be a dead card unless I was able to combo already. So I ended up cutting this from the deck. The only time it was really good is when we get Fuwalos going first and then we have to go through the Vidolium line. Then the draw 2 becomes kind of important, but that's kind of like a niche situation to justify having a bad draw in the deck. The Realize can be kind of awkward sometimes, but it's also just our best starter into things like Droll and Perulia, so I'm happy with this current lineup. A very healthy starter current, you know? Then for the Red Dragon Archfiend engine, we have Soul, Bone, Vision, Darkness, and Gaia are 5 cards that we bridge into. This lineup is honestly perfect, although you can cut the Soul and Bone if you just focus on doing the Handrip combos going first. They add a bit more flavor to the deck, which I really appreciate, you know? But yeah, that is the current stance on the engine ratios. For non-engine, I have 10 cards that I'm absolutely guaranteed to main deck, and that is 3 Ash, 3 Fuwa, 3 Harmonia, and then a Called by the Grave. If we go first, we essentially win on the spot. We just need to stop a potential Fuwalos, and then that's game. So that's why we have to main the Ash and the Called by. The Called by is also just decent going second against Branded and Cool Tune, the 2 best decks. So maining Called by is totally fine. I really want to play Kashtira Fenrir. It combos with the Power Patron, like you can Fenrir, search Fenrir, normal summon the Power Patron, make Omega banish the Handrip, and then special summon the second Fenrir, and it feels so good. It's so based. I just don't know if it's good enough versus other non-engine options. It also kind of conflicts with Harmonia, so that's another like kind of downgrade for the Fenrir, but you could just save the Harmonia as a board breaker, so I don't know. I also really want to play the Fallen and the Virtuous. Like Fenrir plus Fallen and the Virtuous are just good value cards. Fenrir is also decent against Fuwalos, and it's good into things like Di-Fi and Shifter, things that haven't been banned, you know? This just looks like such good value, you know? This is a good grind game with just non-engine cards, but it might be a little too fair. I don't know, man. Another point of consideration is Droll and Lockbird. Do we main this card or do we side this card? It's bad against good Cool Tune players and Branded, but it's good against bad Cool Tune players. And of course, the representation of like strikers in Mitsu is very high, apparently, according to previous nationals. So that kind of makes me want to main the Droll and Lockbird, but then if we go against Cool Tune and they stack the Droll to the top of the deck while completely playing around it, then it's gonna feel really, really bad. So I don't know, man. Our extra deck is also just like super tight for the Fallen and the Virtuous. So yeah, these, I don't know. This, I don't know. These are guaranteed. And that's kind of like where I'm at currently for non-engine. For the side deck, I have 9 spots guaranteed, 3 Sphere Mode, 3 back row removal cards, and then double Ogre and Magna. Back row removal is just very good in general, but especially with everyone on the quick play board breakers, this just gets so much additional value that I think you have to be playing these in the side deck. Ghost Ogres and Magna are like additional Branded hate. They kind of trivialize the Branded matchup. Ghost Ogre is also decent into Doom Z. And then Sphere Modes are for the big scary decks like, you know, Doom Z, Art Mage, Power Patron, things like that. I was playing Lava Golem, but it just wasn't doing enough on its own. So the Sphere Mode becomes a better option at that point. You can also throw this at Fairy Tail, even Eneacraft, but Eneacraft's kind of like a free matchup in this deck anyway. So I still have 6 side deck spots needing filled up. Of course, we need some going first cards to side out the Fuwalos, and then there's maybe room for like 1 more Hand Trap or non-engine there as well. Extra deck is very, very tight. We have our 6 RDA cards, our 3 Elfnote cards that are all basically mandatory. We have the Omega, which is mandatory. We have the Stardust and Axel, which are very much needed for the anti-Fuwa lines with the Medius starters. And then we have a Malong for the Harmonia. That's 13 mandatory extra deck slots. But there's so many cards that I want to put in those final 2 spots. Like we need a level 5 Synchro in case our opponent imperms our Elfnote Power Patron and we start with Medius. If we don't play the 5 Synchro, we just get completely locked out of the game. Rarely happens that they do that. They probably just imperm the Medius in most cases, but I'd rather not have that auto lose button, you know? There's some other good Harmonia targets that we could be playing. Psychic and Punisher is really nice. I have been playing this and it comes up quite a lot. Against Cool Toon level modulation, we have the Elfnote Strelitzia plus the Power Patron level up into the Psychic and Punisher. Harmonia plus a negated Medius can make Psychic and Punisher. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to make this, and the card is really, really good. We could be playing a 9, we could be playing a Black Rose, we could be playing the Genora, and then, of course, if we want to play like Fallen and the Virtuous or Super Poly or stuff like that, there's just more extra deck cards that we want to be playing. So a lot of final slots that we need to decide on before Nationals, bro. Time is ticking, but I'm sure we will figure it out, and you will see the results in a couple of days.